This is the first of a 6-part video series where we're going to be breaking down a method of investing that new and novice investors can use to essentially completely change the trajectory of your life within the next 1 to 3 years. This method I'm a big fan of this method. My partners and I, we're all big fans of this method because it can enable you to essentially achieve infinite returns, which is, when you couple that with the fact that it's backed by real estate, that is an extremely powerful tool that you can put to work for you, your family, your legacy, and all the reasons why people invest in real estate. So the strategy that we're going to be reviewing is called the BRRRR method or BRRRR strategy. So here's a few reasons why we love this strategy. There's a lot of benefits to this strategy. There's a lot of benefits with investing in real estate in general, but in particular, there are 3 that I'd like to talk about at least right now. One is going to be high return on investment. And essentially return on investment is a calculation or, a measure of how much you get back in exchange for what you invest. So, you invest $100,000 and you're getting $10,000 as a return every year. You are essentially getting a 10% return on investment. Number 2, reason that we really like this is basically the ability to build equity positions very quickly. By deploying this strategy, and when I show you the steps, you're going to see how you're actually able to build equity positions by forcing appreciation on the properties. And building equity through forced appreciation is one of the fastest ways to grow wealth through real estate. The third point is going to be scalability. This strategy is probably one that enables you to scale a rental portfolio, therefore scale equity positions, scale, wealth creation to a degree that a lot of other things in real estate and just in life in general cannot match. And the reason for that we'll actually break down when we go through an example that I'm going to show you. So again, this is part 1 of 6. And essentially the point here is to basically introduce you to the method if you never heard of it. If you have heard of it, but you don't really know how it works, we're going to break down the structure of how these deals work, going through each step. And then in the subsequent videos, we're going to delve down into each individual step and really break down how people who have never done this type of thing before can actually get this done for yourself. So let's hit the board and break a deal down. So first things first, what does BRRRR even stand for? The acronym BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I circle repeat because it's my personal favorite step of the process. And it's really where the power is. The point in doing this type of strategy is to basically replicate it and to do it again and again and again. Grow equity positions in different properties that turn into a portfolio of properties that turn into a source of wealth. So we'll get to that later. But to illustrate this, I'm going to break down a deal that we did a couple years ago in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. It was actually the first deal that we did of this type. And once we did it, it was an eye-opener for us, quite honestly, as to how well something like this can work out. It took us about 6 months to get this deal done and then to get through the last step of the process. And just looking at where we started with it and then where we got to in 6 months and then the end result, which I'll review in a second, it really just showed us the power of this strategy and really just incentivized us to want to do more of this. So starting out, step 1, buy. We found this property and we purchased it for $25,000. Okay. So step 2, the rehab. This property was in pretty rough shape. It was, it had a lot of stuff that had been stacked and stored up in it since like the 70s or the 80s. The woman who owned it, she had owned it. She actually inherited it from her parents. And there was just a lot of stuff that needed to be done to the property, starting with a massive clean out. So we cleaned it out and then we pretty much redid the whole thing top to bottom. And that ended up costing us about $65,000. So after steps 1 and 2, total investment, we are all in at $90,000 at this point. Okay. Going on to step number 3, we listed the property for rent. And given what the market was doing at that time and the rent comps and what comparable properties were renting for, we knew that we could get, around 1,500-1,600 or so in rent. So we listed it for rent at $1,650. And luckily we were able to get that leased up. It probably took, I think it was less than 2 weeks, maybe a week. Okay. So at that point, we're through the first 3 steps. We have a property. We are all into it for $90,000, what we've spent on it. And we now have a tenant living in the property, and they're paying us $1,650 a month in rent. So we proceed to step 4, and that is to refinance. We refinance the property with a local bank. And part of the refinance process, we actually, the bank orders an appraisal to be done on the property, and then what they appraise the property for, the bank basically decides what the LTV or loan to value will be for the loan, basically saying that they will loan you a certain percentage of how much the property is actually worth. So in this case, property appraised for $225. The bank was willing to do 75% LTV. So if we come over here, we follow that math, $225,000 appraisal multiplied by 0.75, 75% of that gives us $150,000 loan that the bank was willing to give us on the property. So we closed it. At that point, that $150,000 gets wired to our account, and then essentially going back and figuring what we put into the property versus what we have now received from the bank in the form of a loan, we have $150,000 minus our initial $90,000 investment. For us, fortunately, we were in a position where we owned it free and clear. But there are other ways to actually secure these deals if you don't have the cash to go and do that on your own. And again, I'll break that down in another video. But for us, we paid ourselves back the initial investment, and then we got $60,000 cash on top of that. And cool thing about that is that that money is coming tax-free at the time that you actually refinance. Now that is due to the fact that basically proceeds from a loan are not considered income at the time when you take them. So essentially you're not paying taxes on that money. Talk to your accountant, your CPA, and really understand the nuances of that. But for general purposes, that's tax-free cash coming to your bank account. So then, as you can see, we've done steps 1 through 4 of the process. And then this part here is just kind of illustrate where we are after we get this done and why you really want to repeat, right? This is why you want to do that. So we have a $150,000 loan on the property, okay? And the loan is being paid by the rental income. Essentially, the tenant is paying the mortgage on this property. Okay. We have mortgage coming in at $808, taxes and insurance coming in about $390. And basically, after you subtract that out, you see that we are cash flowing about $450 a month, $452 to be exact, using this math on this property. So how cool is that? Like, that is really the point of why you want to follow through with the process and then repeat. I'm terrible on the whiteboard, so don't laugh at my little star. I think it's cool. This is why this is powerful, and this is why we think that more people need to understand how to actually leverage this strategy to basically go from maybe only 1 or 2 investment properties or no investment properties to getting your first, and then being able to scale to replicating this process again and again and again. Because at this point, you have no money in the deal, okay? Then you have $60,000 cash on top of that. And then on top of that, you're making $452 a month in additional revenue. Why wouldn't you want to do that again? This deal, again, I think as I mentioned earlier, it took us about 6 months. You can do one of these deals every year without much headache. Well, I take that back. There's going to be a lot of headache because this is real estate. Love-hate relationship, all love, little bit of hate, but that's with anything in life, any profession. You got to take the good with the bad. And truth be told, and the point of it is real estate, there's way more good than there ever will be bad. So you just got to roll through those things. But I digress. So again, point of this video was to pretty much just go over the broad, cover the topic, teach you what this means, how this works. In the next videos, we're going to actually delve deeper into each one of these processes and really show you how you can do this A to Z, soup to nuts. If you've never done this before, or if you're not really familiar with how individual pieces of the process work. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this. We will be doing more of these videos. We want to see people win, essentially. We are passionate about helping other people achieve success for themselves, for their families, for their communities, for your legacy, or whatever you do it for. Growing wealth and being able to grow equity and being able to position yourself financially through investing in real estate to really achieve your long-term goals and to set your family up for generations to come. There's really not many other things like it. And we're really passionate about really just helping people along that path. So stay tuned. We'll be doing more of these videos. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, DM. We'll put the contact info in the comments, Instagram, whatever. We're on the major channels. So we'll talk to you soon. Almost forgot. If you thought this was of value, or you think there is someone in your life who could benefit from having this knowledge, or somebody who wants to get involved in real estate, who you think, would benefit from knowing about this, or somebody who is trying to actually do this and may not have a very clear understanding of what they're doing and searching around and surfing on, YouTube University, trying to figure it out, like and share, and we'll be happy to help anybody.